Hey guys, what's going on? Today I want to talk about something I struggle with. I think it's something a lot of people struggle with, and it only seems to be getting worse. Obviously, you know I love reading, so I talk about it as much as I can, and people will often tell me that they used to be able to read non-stop. They used to be able to get super involved in books, but not so much recently. And it's always tinged with a hint of regret, so I imagine it's something that they'd like to relearn. And it's no mystery as to why it's happened. If I'm being honest with myself, I've definitely lost some amount of focus in the last couple of years. The culprit is short-form content. The science is pretty undeniable. Short-form content has eaten away at our attention spans and made sitting down to read more difficult. So if we know this, then why is it still a problem? Well, of course, because it's highly addictive. Self-destruction is more readily available than ever, and as someone with an addictive personality, and as someone who's well aware of that addictive personality, I need a defense mechanism that works. Otherwise, there's no way in hell I'd be able to do my book-a-week challenge. So I use an emotional trigger. And this isn't going to be the most zen piece of advice you find here on YouTube. Your mileage may vary, of course, but I get mad. Get mad when you see a bald-faced attempt to snare you with overstimulation. Get mad when you see a sneaky assault on those of us who will read anything put in front of us. And get mad when you see an egregious appeal to your primal impulses. Get mad that your attention span is being eroded. Get mad that your ability to read is being taken away from you. Your ability to sit still, your ability to enjoy the moment. And you're not getting mad at some nameless inevitability. Some person put out that manipulative content. A person, oftentimes, like me, putting out a YouTube video. And I'm aware I'm at the precipice of hypocrisy here, but I think my worst offense so far has been that little red arrow in the thumbnail, which isn't too bad, I think. But I can see why they do it. Manipulating you makes them money. They are literally feasting on your attention span. And that's despicable. So get mad. And here's the trick. Use that anger as a trigger to stop. To put your phone down, to step away from the screen, take a walk, do anything that leads you away from where they were leading you. And I find the anger dissipates pretty quickly once you've disconnected yourself from the source. It may sound like I'm trying to incite a mob here. Really, I'm not. So put your pitchforks down. It's just that these tactics prey upon us in such a foundational way that we have to fight back with something equally foundational. Twitter, Reddit, YouTube Shorts, admittedly most of YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, the more you use these, the more you jeopardize your attention span and your ability to read. And I know it's hard. Trust me, I know. When I went on TikTok to get these videos, I was tumbling around in its infernal butter churn until finally I landed on this desperate grab of my attention, which sparked the anger I needed to disconnect. It's insulting. It's disrespectful. So why would I let something that's insulting me and harming me continue to enter my life? And I know no one wants to be angry, but the hope is that eventually, when you've associated short-form content with this negative emotion, that you won't seek it out. But of course, there's other factors that play here. Another focus-killing habit, one I fall victim to all the time, is what I call the two things syndrome. The urge to do two things at the same time in an attempt to get the most done. The siren song of efficiency. And in theory, it should work. It's multitasking. It's something that every job requires. But in practice, it's a negative-sum game. Because there is a measured amount of focus loss when you're switching between two different tasks. You're actually getting less done, and you're negatively affecting your focus at the same time. But personally, no matter how many times I learn that, I'm still drawn to it. And don't make the mistake of getting mad at yourself. That doesn't work. Trust me, I know. You just devalue yourself, and you're more likely to fall victim to short-form content in the future. You deserve grace, you deserve patience, but you also deserve to not be under the thumb of greedy opportunists. And I know that can be a hard balance to strike. I don't really have a snappy piece of advice to combat the two things syndrome, but I could use one, so you guys got anything? Alright, so once we've begun to combat the demons gnawing at our attention span, we can work on strengthening it. It's a skill like anything else. One exercise I like to do is take a book, a physical book, find a place to read outside. And if you want to try the advanced version, if you want to train at 2 times gravity, leave your phone at home. You can find a sunny bench or a stairwell, bring a blanket, lay on the grass. Trees make really good backrests. I find it much easier to get engulfed in a book when I'm outside. I feel there's less distraction. And when you're out there on a nice day and you got the sun in your face, the birds are chirping, you got a good book in your hand, you feel like there really is nothing more you want from life. And that's a really good feeling. And that's a feeling everyone needs. You're not worried about other things you need. You're not trying to scramble to get your life in order. Your life is in order. Everything you need is right there. And you're just at peace. You're in the moment. It's beautiful. Another good practice is to have a reading routine or a reading schedule. We're all creatures of habit, especially me. So the same forces that latch us to our phones can instead latch us to a book. I read every morning and every night, and it's gotten to the point where I can't fall asleep without a book, which I like to think is my addictive personality finally paying off for once. And of course it helps to pick the right book. So here's 3 recommendations that I found really easy to engage with. The writing is crisp and the reading is effortless. First we got Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. You can see my copy is well worn, and that's for good reason. This book got me back into reading, and I'm going to say probably the same is true for millions of other people out there. The book follows Ender, our main character, who is a selectively bred tactical genius as he goes away to essentially military boarding school in space. There's a bunch of hostile aliens who are threatening Earth, so we need Ender to succeed and to thrive and to rise up and be the general that brings down the aliens. There's a lot of characters, they're all pretty well drawn. Ender specifically I found super easy to connect with. The intrigue and the conflict are all really well paced throughout the book, and there is a delicious little twist at the end. Hugo winner, Nebula winner, and there's a bunch of sequels to this book which I feel offer a perfect staircase for someone who's getting back into reading, because each one requires a little more focus. I read this book entirely outside over my lunch breaks when I lived in New Orleans. I've got such incredible memories with it, and I am envious of anyone who gets to read it for the first time. Next up we got Horns by Joe Hill. This is a thriller with some speculative elements written by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. But I bet he doesn't like getting introduced that way. Our main character wakes up after a night of heavy drinking to find that he's grown horns on the top of his head. Is it justified? Is it not? He is a bit of a morally ambiguous character, but it is a redemption story. And it is, I'm going to say, the best paced book I've ever read. You always see on the back of books, couldn't put it down, it was a page turner. And that is rarely true for me, but with this book, it was. I think I read it all in one day, in 2 sittings. He doles out the bits of information masterfully. And after I was done, I gave it to my wife, who devoured it in pretty much the same way. So, if my wife liked it, what else do you need? Read this book. And lastly, I recommend The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. I know it's a dad book. I rarely read nonfiction, but this one was truly thrilling. You learn all about the World's Fair that happened in Chicago in the late 1800s. You learn about the first Ferris wheel. You learn about the logistics of hosting like a mass event back in that time, which really was fascinating. And at the same time, you get the story of a local serial killer, which I know a lot of people are into. The book is super popular for a reason. If you don't have it, you can always borrow it from your dad. You're going to get into it. You're going to enjoy it. I guarantee that. Alright guys, that's what I got for you today. And if you made it this far, congrats. Your attention span is greater than average. Hope my advice works for at least some of you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.